Okie dokie, everybody. My name is Edward Shepard. I work for California Virtual Academies, and this is the first of a series of videos where I will talk about how I'm using gamification, game elements in my course. I teach chemistry. This is an avatar that I use. This is a picture of me made by one of my students. I did not request this, but she just did it of her own volition and gave it to me one day as a surprise, so I've been using it ever since. Now, I think that the best overview of gamification comes from a TED Talk by Tom Chatfield, where he talks about the 7 ways games reward the brain. You should really watch this video in its entirety. Tom talks about how the game industry has, for the last, I don't know, decade, been able to do something very unusual. They have a massive user base and the ability to track every single thing that every single person in their games does. Plus, they can tweak the user experience and see what happens as a result. So they can do these massive experiments, crunch the numbers, do statistical analysis, and figure out what changes lead to higher user retention, right? Higher user engagement, which is exactly what we want to do with students. Video games are not 100% fun. There's a lot of drudgery, and then there are cool things. And video games have figured out how to get people to do mindless, unfun, stupid things like roaming around the countryside, breaking barrels, looking for cool stuff for hours and hours. People put in a tremendous amount of work doing drudgery just so they can get cool stuff. Right? So games have figured out how to get them hooked on this. One of the findings early on is that you can't make a game that's just pure fun. That gets tiring. People don't stick with that. It's got to be um, drudgery punctuated by moments of fun, I guess. Okay, so starting with number one, the number one way that games reward the brain is with a progress bar.
And the point is really that we evolved to be satisfied by the world in particular ways. Over tens and hundreds of thousands of years, we evolved to find certain things stimulating, and as very intelligent civilized beings, we're enormously stimulated by problem solving and learning. But now, we can reverse engineer that and build worlds that expressly tick our evolutionary boxes. So what does all this mean in practice? Well, I've come up with 7 things that I think show how you can take these lessons from games and use them outside of games. The first one is very simple. Experience bars measuring progress, something that's been talked about brilliantly by people like Jesse Schell earlier this year. It's already been done in the University of Indiana in the States, among other places. It's the simple idea that instead of sort of grading people incrementally in little bits and pieces, you give them one profile, character, avatar, which is constantly progressing in tiny, tiny, tiny little increments which they feel their own, and everything counts towards that, and they watch it creeping up, and they own that as it goes along.
Well, how can we use that in a class? Well, before I get to how I make the progress bar, let me lay the scene. If you're entering my chemistry class, this is the first message you'll get, welcoming you and telling you that you're a neophyte and you're failing the class because you're at level 0, you have no training, no experience. Of course you're failing, you have no points. You need to earn points by doing quizzes, tests, labs, all sorts of assignments. When you get experience points, you go up in rank. The higher you go in rank, the higher your grade in the class. Now, before we get to showing the actual ranks in the class, one of the first things you can do is choose your avatar name. So you're choosing the name of your character. It doesn't have to be your own name. As you go through the class, you fill out this Google form for me, and when I send emails to kids, I use their avatar name and I put their real name in parentheses. So it just gives them their little game character who's going to go through the levels, which are, here's the grading scale. So it's on this nice themed page, how the course is graded. I use this symbol where I have any information that has to do with staying on track. I use this symbol for it. So they'll see that again and again in the course, the little arrow. Uh, Grading scale. This semester, I've started making all of my courses worth a grand total of 1,000 points. What that does for me is I don't have to figure out a different numerical scale for all of my classes. I can just use the same numbers. And if I have a different theme, I'll change the name of the level. So for chemistry, I use this kind of fantasy, medieval, alchemy theme because I think it fits chemistry well. If I were teaching a different course, I might use a different theme. For my homeroom course, I use a knight theme. They are squires and they want to be knights. Okay. So here's a scale starting at the bottom where everybody starts as a base neophyte. You only need 20 points to become a junior neophyte. 20 out of 1,000, not very much. And there are enough extra credit assignments available on the very first day of class that a lot of kids will reach this level on the very first day. In which case, I send out a little email saying, congratulations, you just leveled up. So they get this feedback. Every time they level up, I send them out a message saying, hey, congratulations, you've leveled up. Well, how many times are they going to get this feedback of congratulations? Potential 24 times, because there are 24 levels. So that's a lot of feedback telling them that they're on the right track. Now let me talk about one aspect of this. First, the actual grading is no different from a traditional class. It's just that I don't focus on A to F grades. I focus on these levels. And that changes the way students view the course. It changes it from this roller coaster ride of some days you're up, the next day you're down, maybe tomorrow you'll be up again. This kind of king of the hill game, which users don't find very satisfying, to a game of attrition, where, listen, you have to work at this. You put in some work, you go up. You put in a little more work, you go up. A little more work, you go up. You just climb this ladder, and where you stop depends on how hard you're willing to work. Now that's how video games work. You just keep working, keep plugging away at the game, and ultimately you can reach the highest level. It's not going to be easy, but where you stop depends on when you give up. Students, even though they're used to this in video games, they don't realize it when I'm talking about this scale on the first day of class. So I ask the question, okay, you're working your way up. When do you go down? And I either hear the crickets chirping because no one knows, or I hear kids saying, "Oh, when you get a bad grade." Now that's not true. You never go down in this. In this, the number of points you earn if you just stop doing work altogether just stays there. That's right. Once you have 500 points, you have 500 points. It never goes down. It only goes up. So this frames the whole course as a no-lose proposition. Turning in assignments becomes no-lose. Now, there could be, depending on the way you set up your class, it could be a bad idea to turn in assignments that aren't done well, right? Because of your retake policy. Well, I have a very liberal retake policy in my courses, so it's essentially no lose proposition to turn in work. Okay. So that's kind of a game changer for kids to see that, well, you just need to keep plugging away, and no matter what, you go up. The only way you stop going up is if you stop working, and you never go down. And so it's really all up to you to just keep putting in the work. Okay. Now we have the scale. It's for them. It's here for them to see. They can go through their grade book, see how many points they have, and go find what level they're in. But yeah, kids just they don't do that on their own. So we have to tell them. We have to alert them to what their level is. What I really wish were available was I wish I could set up an announcement like that first announcement. I could set up 24 announcements, all congratulating them for reaching the 24 different levels, but with release conditions that say, well, to get this junior apprentice uh, notification, you need between 900 and 950 points in the course. And the big problem that makes this impossible is that there doesn't seem to be a way to look at the total number of points in the gradebook. It would be really nice if someone would change that or figure out a way to change it, because without that, I'm stuck looking through the gradebook and sending out notices, and I'll just grab a handful of random kids and do that, uh, so that they will get some notices from me when they've leveled up, gotten to the next level, or when they have just every once in a while I'll send out a notice saying you're at this level, this is how many points you have, yada yada yada. So that's a bit of extra work. Um, but I have been able to automate that with some scripting that I do. However, if you don't have scripting skills, if you don't have programming skills, it'll have to be a little bit of manual work. Or, you can just tell kids go look at go look at the grade and figure out where you are, right? You, so this can work on its own, or you can combine it with emails where you're actively telling the kids what their scores are. Okay, so now let's finally get to the emails, and I'll show you what it looks like when I give kids the progress bar. Okay, so this is an example progress report. It's a real one, but I X'd out the name here. So here are two progress bars, and the one that tells us our our journey through the course is the XP, the experience point one. So this tells us that we're just working on up, and this actually doesn't show the full 24 level thing. This is how far it's going to take to get from the level where she is now, base hopeful, to the next level. So you'll see this progress bar advanced very quickly. Um, I could add an overall course progress bar from 0 to 1,000 points, but I just thought that thing would move really slowly, so I went with the smaller one, which is how most games do it. The experience bar tends to go up from one level to the next, and then it starts over once you get to that next level when you level up. I've also got the health point bar, which is the more traditional A to F grade, right? So uh, if you're at 50%, it'll be halfway. 100%, it'll be all the way. Um, this, if you take the time to read, which most kids get this, it's pretty simple. But I do get some parents who are just like, I don't understand what's happening, and I can't be bothered to read anything, and why is it not simple A to F and all that stuff. So, yeah, nothing's perfect in life, I guess. I go ahead and I grab some missing assignments for these kids if I know that they're missing any. And here's where you have to scroll down to understand what these are all about. So the level tells you your progress in the course. If you go look at that grading scale, it just reflects how far you've advanced in the quest to master your knowledge of chemistry. The HP points is your traditional score, and I break it down. 90 above is an A and all that. Okay, so most of this is just a form letter gets sent over and over again. I just have to fill in a few blanks here, like how many experience points does a student actually have right now? 623.09, and I tell her how many points she needs for advancing to the next level, right? So this student, when she gets this, she sees how close she is to the next level. She sees what her overall grade is in the course, her traditional grade. And she also knows, as far as the number of points, how much she needs to get to the next level. All right. Now, obviously, it takes some work to generate these, but I'll do these. I'll do these for a handful of kids every day. Okay, so this is what a level up notice looks like. It says you just leveled up, and someday I might give kids a way to choose their own avatar and put that, but until that happens, I just use this kind of generic avatar for them. They have their avatar name, Lovely Violet, it's hers, and then in parentheses the real name so that if a parent gets it, they know what this is. Um, Current level, I congratulate them on now being a whatever level they are. Tell them how many points they've earned so far and how many they need to get to the next level, which will be a junior hopeful. And then I have a little blurb about how they can earn more points by doing basically just doing stuff, or remind them about the retake policies for the different assignments. And yeah, so it is another piece of work to identify kids who have just leveled up, but I do it thanks to some programming skills that I have. Makes it easier. Again, it would be really nice if you could just have an announcement that pops up in the course itself saying, congratulations, you're now at this level. Only reason I don't do that is that I haven't figured out how to have it look at the total number of points for the whole course. And if I get that figured out, hey, there we go. I'll start doing that instead of sending out these emails. I did get a parent who was like, "Woohoo! Way to go!" when she got this, congratulating her student, her kid, on leveling up. So some people get into it. Like this student has a nice little avatar name. Some kids don't get into it that much, and then some parents don't like it. They want the traditional stuff back, but those parents, A, they're not taking the course, and B, they can't even be bothered to read. Most of them can't be bothered to even read where I explain what all this stuff is. So okay, so let me talk about what I would like to see ideally. This is the student view of the course, and they do get a progress bar, but unfortunately, this shows how many topics they've completed. It doesn't say anything about their grade. There are 293 topics, and this student has done 193 of them. Did she get an A on all of those? Did she get an F on all of those? Who knows? It Going through the topics is going to show this bar progressing, and it has nothing to do with the grade. The only grade information is up here, uh, which shows that she's got a C in the course, right? Well, what I would like to see is I would like to somehow get a progress report, a progress bar that shows you your progress from 0 to 1,000 points, or even better, uh, another one that shows you how close you are to the next level. Again, there's no easy way to do this. There may be a way to do this, but it's going to take some work. And the problem is that the release conditions for the announcements, which would allow you to put a progress bar in the announcement, they just don't give you access to the total number of points possible, or the total number of points earned in the course. And there may be a workaround for that, but there's no straightforward way. Okay, so when I look back at all the stuff I've done with the course, I think that this grading scale is probably both the biggest departure from traditional classes and also maybe the thing that has contributed most to student engagement. And a big part of that is the much more frequent student feedback. That's part of it, I think. And then the other part is the fact that their grades can only go up. Their grades can never go down.